Hello everyone, welcome back to the video, and today we're doing something a little bit different. As you can tell, not only am I posting this on a Tuesday, which is something I don't do with my current schedule, and also I'm playing, this is Hogwarts Legacy, when very clearly it's talking about the Amazing Digital Circus. That's because today I want to just talk about the Amazing Digital Circus because, as you know, I posted my reaction to it yesterday, so you got to see that yesterday. But I felt like after I had posted it, I felt like there was a bunch missing. Like I wasn't really talking about the show because I didn't really say anything about my opinion on what was happening and that sort of stuff. So that's what I'm here to do today. This won't be a long video, but you know, I'm just want to just go over what happened in the episode, like my thoughts on it, and then at the end I'm going to give my rating of the show as a whole as now it is complete. Also, you're probably wondering why I'm in Hogwarts Legacy. Simple. I just want something to do while I'm talking, so that way there's something going on instead of just clips of the show. I just want to show I'm just going to be going around the highlands of Hogwarts Legacy and just getting some XP, so that way I could get stronger for the next episode, which I'm recording directly after this. But point being, and not important, I'm gonna be doing in Hogwarts Legacy. I'm just doing like quests, like simple stuff like the astronomy tables, the ancient magic sites, other stuff, just killing monsters, just getting experience that way, just sort of grinding throughout this episode. I'm not gonna be doing anything story related for Hogwarts Legacy. I'm gonna also refrain from spoilers because this is recorded after I think 2 of the episodes that you have seen. So there's a bunch of stuff that I've done before you have seen it, so I'm gonna do my best to prevent spoilers from what you guys know. But anyway, I'm gonna fly this as astronomy table and then start talking about this because again, very weird. This is a whole new format for me. I don't really know how to do this. But anyway, would it? I think I might as well just start with a recap of the show, of the final episode. And I know it came out yesterday. My reaction came out yesterday. You guys have all probably seen it. I'm still gonna say recap just because. In the episode, we started off with the crew in the damaged circus after Kanger had accidentally deleted Kane, and at which point everyone started getting mad and frustrated at what was going on. They were confused, they were stressed, and nobody really knew what to do. So, because of that, they needed to find a way to get out. Oh, what am I saying? I don't even know what I'm saying. They didn't know what to do. So, but eventually they found out that they were all brain scans they're essentially copies of the original people's minds. So their memories, their emotions, all this stuff was not real in this sort of like it wasn't from their genuine body. It also means they have no way out. They had no way to get out of there. So, and after which they decided, they decided they needed something to do. So they started learning how to conjure from Kinger, and after which Jax just got abstracted. Jax got abstracted just out of nowhere. Like, just unceremoniously, it just happened. We're just like, oh, hey, he's abstracted now. Deal with that. Like, unceremoniously. That's probably my one grievance with the episode is they just offed him. They just offed Jax off into the background. Nothing really happened. He just sort of disappeared. Again, I say my only grievance with the episode so far. Along after that happened, the gang decided they needed to find a way to sort of keep Jax contained so that way he didn't hurt anyone or himself. And in doing so, Agatha gathered up all the crew to create some way to contain him, and Pomni went after Jax to sort of trail him and follow him. After which she went into the hallway where all their rooms are, shot out all the lights, and tried to connect with Jax in the darkness. She successfully did it. We got to see a whole bunch of flashbacks about him, and sort of just revealing his story, his past, and all that sort of stuff, which I'll get to later. So later, after we see all these flashbacks, we find normal Jax or the Prime Jax. I'll get to that in a minute. Why I'm saying Prime Jax in a minute. Him and Pomni had this chat. Jax sort of going on this rant about why nobody should care about him. He's been such a jerk to them ever since they've met, and he doesn't deserve love. He doesn't deserve a second chance. He doesn't deserve anything other than abstraction. Pomni disagrees with it, runs towards him, and gives him a hug. At which point we get probably the saddest scene of the entire series. It is of Pomni and Jax crying. Jax is kneeling on the ground, hugging her, and he ends off with this final words being, "I don't want to go." Again, probably the saddest, my personal opinion, it is the saddest moment of the entire series, but that's my opinion. After which, the rest of the gang pull Pomni out before she disintegrates from the glitchiness of the abstraction, and then they wrangle Jax into a giant pillow fort that they made for him to sort of calm down. And after that, we find out that Kane's alive. So apparently he's alive. He had been trapped in the void for a bit. From what I could tell, he needed to sort of get used to his abilities again because he then deleted, so all of his stuff was gone. So he had to rebuild his memory and that sort of stuff. At which point, we see two things. We see both OG AI Kane, who was the Kane from the start, the first renditions of Kane, running towards the brain scans of the original developers for the show, like Scratch and Kinger and Queenie and all those people. He ran over towards them, and we saw how he created Scratch in the first place. He threw some objects he sort of molded the brain scan through objects into these forms and that sort of stuff. While that's happening, we're also collectively also seeing normal Kane run through running towards a Wi-Fi signal so he can hack and get into the internet. At which point he spends a little while learning about the cast and what's been going on with them in the real world and their actual bodies. And he sort of he becomes more human, I personally believe, after which he removes the secondary AI that he had swallowed up, that we had seen him swallow up at the beginning of episode 8, sort of calming him down, which I think insinuates that the reason Kane was sort of insane was because of that guy, and I would believe it. I would very much believe that. And after that, Kane heads back to the circus, has a brief chat with the moon. It's a whole thing. And meets up with the cast and doesn't beg for forgiveness. Says that he wants to give up control of the circus to the cast. They say that it's going to take some time for them to trust him again for obvious reasons. It's going to take a while for anyone to trust him again after what he did. He realizes the error of his ways, and at which point shows the cast a slideshow of their lives, what's been going on with their true bodies after everything that's been going on. After which he gives over control of the circus to the cast and tells them that he's going to keep the missions open for everyone. All the worlds are going to be open, that you can go and exit or enter as you please and sort of create your own adventures. And the episode ends with a montage of them sort of getting back together, connecting with everyone. Basically just the ramifications of that choice, all the good possibilities of what's going on. We saw a bunch of many different things of what's going on. And the episode ends with not only Pomni looking up to the camera, breaking the fourth wall, and I'm assuming Jax's memory. And after that, we see a clip of the real world where where the entire cast is getting onto a bus, which is just on the same bus at the same time, and that's where the episode and the series ends. So, what are my current thoughts? I'm going to talk about, there are 3 people that I want to talk about, specifically. Actually, no, I'm going to limit it down to 2. There's 2 people that I want to talk about, which are Jax and Kane, who are the sort of main cast for the episode, because they're the main focus of the episode. Um, let's talk about Jax, because he's this again. He is the main person for this episode. I might as well start talking about the flashback and all that sort of stuff. Everything that we learned from him. In the flashback, we learned a few things. We learned that he is homeless after an incident with his mother. We also learned that his father sort of left after his parents got divorced. Never really saw Jax again. His mother was the kind of person who sort of missed her husband and sort of saw him and Jax, but like missed him, but also hated him at the same time. So basically, whenever Jax didn't act like a man, she berated him, and when he did act when he acted too much like a man, and the fact that he was violent and that sort of stuff, when he lashed out specifically, she'd be scared of him, say that that's not who he was, that sort of thing, which is a very difficult place to live in. At which point Jax told his mother some sort of secret. What that secret is, we don't know at the moment. So I have my theories about what the secret is, but I'll get to that in a minute. After he tells his mom that secret, she goes off on a tangent, berates him, sort of just basically messes with his head mentally. At the end of it, she hugs him. Jax instinctively pushes away from it, and he believes that he has killed her in this act. He believes that because she pushes her to the ground and she doesn't get back up. So he assumes that he just killed her. That's what he thinks, which in my mind is pretty reasonable to think at that moment. But so after that he sort of ran away, ended up homeless, and then woke up in the circus. We see the memory-wise, we got to see memories of Jax, Kaufmo, and Ribbit. They're sort of past. Them meeting each other, becoming friends, and then we see a clip of Jax and Ribbit in Ribbit's room. They're having a discussion about their pasts. Jax reveals the past that I just listed, and at which point he immediately regrets it, sees it as a trap, and sort of his whole demeanor changes after that point. He feels like he just sort of becomes the Jax that we know. Like, he was sort of, before that incident, he was like more uplifting, more funny. Like, he was actually a relatively good person before this moment, and then he goes to being snarky Jax. That sort of results in Ray abstracting, then Kaufman abstracting, and then we get back to the present timeline and that sort of stuff. One other thing to note: while Palm is in his head, we got to see a bunch of different versions of him. Basically, results of what would extreme scenarios of what would happen if 3 of the members of the Digital Circus abstracted. We got to see what happened if Ragath abstracted, which resulted in just psycho killer Jax. We got to see what happens if Gango abstracted, which results in basically Looney Tunes Jax. And we got to see what happens if Zubo abstracted, which is probably the weirdest of them all. It was one of those scenes that I can't explain. It was focusing on Jax in like the maid outfit, which is weird to start, which is a weird sentence to start with, and it shows Jax, I think, hitting on Gangle, which is weird. The whole interaction was weird. It kind of made me uncomfortable a bit watching it, but anyway, those were sort of the 3 extremes of what happened. We didn't get to see what happened if Kinger abstracted. I'm assuming because he doesn't really care about Kinger in that capacity. We also got to see what happened if Pomni abstracted. I'm assuming that if Pomni abstracted, there was a blocked off door in the room. I'm assuming that that's what would happen if Pomni abstracted. And then we also right before we got to see the flashbacks, we saw a weaker, more like sniveling coward of Jax, who was playing the piano. I'm assuming that's the Jax that would have happened if Kinger had died, but I'm not 100% sure. But with all that together, what do I personally? I might as well go over my theories. I personally believe that his mom is maybe not dead, but concussed at the very least. Uh, and I can when hearing this story, I can sort of understand what Jax was going through at the time. Well, like specifically when it comes to like Ribbit and Kaufmo, because like he had a friend in Ribbit and Kaufmo. They were good friends, and then he told his secret, and he felt like he couldn't trust them. He felt like everything else. Because I think to Jax, like having friends of this capacity, he sees it as like a trap, considering that what happened to everyone that he's met. It sort of feels like he's just trying. He sees relationships as a trap and like a bad thing when in reality they're a good thing. So that's why after he revealed all this to Ribbit, he got defensive, pushed his friends away, that sort of stuff. That's what I sort of think is happening or happens with Jax, and why he sort of pushed everyone away as time went on. Because either that or he like blames himself for their deaths. Because again, he thinks he killed his mom, and then he's probably thinking that Ribbit and Kaufmo abstracted because of him, because of the choice he made. They aren't there anymore. They aren't a thing. They're gone because of, again, the choice he believes he made of becoming friends with them, not the choice of pushing them away. He believes that being friends with them is what caused them to abstract, when in reality it's the opposite. When I see this, it's a weird scenario because how do I explain it? Because I sort of, in this moment, I empathized with Jax and everything that had been going on. He had been beaten down at every single turn, and nothing was okay for him. Like, he was a broken individual who then got trapped in a circus where he couldn't leave. And because of that, he doubted everything. He didn't know what to do. Resulted in what the Jax we have now, which then resulted in his own abstraction because he went crazy. But when it comes to other things, I don't really know. I don't really know what else. I personally believe that this big secret that he was keeping quiet might have been because directly after we are given that scene, Ribbit gives Jax a bow, puts she had like a bow tie on, and she puts it on his head, sort of making sort of in a second making Jax look more like a girl, which makes me believe, based off that and the fact that the whole maid thing happened, I think that maybe the secret that he told his mom was that he wasn't a guy. He didn't think he was a guy. Thought maybe he was a girl. I think that's definitely a possibility, because he originally told his mom this truth, because he wanted her off his back. And I'm assuming that that and everything else combined, if he wanted to get his mom off his back for how he acted as a man, he wouldn't, and he didn't believe himself to be a man, then telling her would get her off his back. But in reality, I think his mom, the jerk she is, saw it as like maybe an excuse or just a lie to do that, when in reality it wasn't. That's personally what I believe. Now, and when it comes to that, in terms of Kane, let's move on to Kane, since I'm talking about him, talk about Jax a lot. In terms of Kane, I sort of, again, at the end of the episode, I sort of sympathize with him, because while he is in the void, he talks about how he messed up, he ruined everything. He realized, and it's in the void, he realizes that the bad choices he made. And because of that, he makes different decisions. He changes. He actually grows from the experience and becomes a better host for the rest of the cast. And I believe that Kane isn't really bad guy in the sense of like he's evil. I think he's just someone who has been given an objective and doesn't understand how to do it. Like he believes that his job is that he needs to keep the cast entertained by giving them these adventures, and he thinks that his way of going about it is the only way to go about it. However, that is in the psychotic way it is. That also combined with the secondary eye in his head might have been making him go a little insane. Not 100% sure. I believe there's a chance. And while he's in the void, we can see him like relearning, regrowing. And I think in this moment he realized that he needs to change, that his approach needs to change. And like, because in an effort to get to the like the Wi-Fi thing, he had to create a bunch of like digital blocks and such, so that way he could climb up there. But the pattern, he originally started with cubes. He did 2 cubes, and then all of a sudden, every cube after that started. And then if he placed the cube again, it fell. It fell down. It fell into like a bottomless pit because he couldn't fly at that moment. So which shows that he had one way of doing it. The cube was the first thing he came up with, and then it stopped working. Like he had a plan that worked some of the times, but at some moments in his story, it doesn't work, and he needed to change his approach. He needed to learn. He needed to grow, and sometimes he did need to fall back on those old ideas, which he did. Like he used the cube more than once. Like after that point, he like transitioned between cubes and cylinders and like triangular prisms or whatever, cones. That's what it is. Transitioned between all of those in an effort to learn the truth, to show everyone that he was changed. He was different. He wanted to be someone new. And I believe that's a massive piece of personal growth for Kane as a character. Because again, he has a job. He knows that that's his job. And until recently, he thought the way he was doing his job was the correct way to do his job. So after this experience, was forced to learn. After literally getting deleted because of that, because of how he acted, and the way he was, he realized that his method wasn't working. He needed to change things up, switch things up, and become something new. So he did. And it was great. I loved it. And after he gets back into the circus, I think the best part about Ken going back to the circus was that his first thing he said to everyone was, his first things that he said to the cast was, he was sorry. I know you don't trust me, but I want to give the circus over to you. I want to give you control of this place. I don't want to be in control. Because when a good point of like growth for an individual, when it comes to like the snarky sort of people that don't really have, how do I put this? They only care about themselves. They think themselves to be the leader. They're always in charge, that sort of stuff. When it comes to them, their personal growth is shown through the giving up of authority, giving up of power, like removing themselves from a situation where they are in control, giving it up to someone else who they believe deserves it better. And Kane doing that was the best step of growth towards everyone else. But I do also applaud the cast for not immediately getting rid of him. They allowed him to stay. Like they gave him a second chance. Like sure, it took time for them to trust him again, which is fair considering everything that had happened. But they eventually did learn to trust him. He in the end, Kane ended the series, the show, not as the host, but as a member of the cast himself. He originally was this dictator that controlled the entire circus, but then became part of it himself, which I think is a very beautiful ending for Kane in that sort of idea. He had everything. He had control, he had power, but gave it up to be with get something better. He got his friends. And I applaud him for that. It's a great point of personal growth for Kane to do this. Now, I have a theory about what the second AI is. Uh, Everyone does. We all believe the fandom. I'm pretty sure all of you believe it too. Is that Bubble? Well, specifically Bubble. Yeah, Bubble at the beginning of episode 8, the one that was like berating and screwing with Kane's mental state to sort of push him over the edge, is the second AI, which we could assume is probably Abel. If we are to believe that CNA represents Kane and Abel, then CNA, then the A would probably be the other AI in my head. In my head, that's where my head goes about that. Um, what else do I have to talk about when it comes to the show? I don't think there isn't much else to talk about. Is there anything else I want to say? Oh yeah, rating. Let's go with rating. Yeah. Personally, my rating for the show is it comes down to a few things. One, it comes down specifically when it comes to anime shows, it goes to animation, story, characters, class character arcs, and finally, the final thing. What was the final thing? Oh, right, a feeling. It's the sort of what I mean by that is sort of like the feeling I get after I watch the show. Like, did it have an impact on me after the show was over, or did I just watch it? It ended, and then I moved on immediately, sort of thing. When it comes to looks, like animation, I kind of have to give it a 9 out of 10. Just for one major reason, and that's entirely of episode 1. Episode 1 and like that sort of style, because I know the pilot came out like long before before the rest of the show came out, but that's sort of the issue I'm seeing, is that my biggest grievance with episode 1 is the lighting. As someone who has taken a bunch of photography classes, I've gotten pretty used to lighting, and I've gotten to a point where I'm obsessing over it, and I see it in everything I do, especially animations, because lighting is so dang hard. But specifically when it's compared to the rest of the series, it is a very different feel. Like it just feels like an entirely different show when you watch it compared to when you watch the rest of the show, because of the art style, the way it looks. So it's not like it just affects my rating in that sort of way, instead of like, it doesn't ruin the show for me. It just, again, lowers it down from 1 point. And anyway, on to story. A story I'm gonna have to again give a 9 out of 10. The story for the shows was always great. I loved how the character development, the story, how it goes, how it creates this sort of idea. It also had the storyline for the show is also always keeps you on your toes. You never know what's coming next, and that's what I find great about it. And at the end of the show, though, in the final episode, like I said, my biggest grievance with the final episode was that it just sort of unceremoniously got rid of Jax. Just out of nowhere, just like, oh, no, he's abstracted. Like, oh, no, bye-bye. Just no explanation or anything. It's just, he's not here anymore. Which was my biggest grievance, because I would have loved to have seen, like, a big tense moment where Jax had abstracted and everyone was, like, running from him. But it seems like that did happen, but just not in the way I specifically wanted. I know there is. I did also watch, after I watched the full episode, I did watch some other people's reactions to it. And a lot of people had the same thought as me when it came to that. It's just like, wait, he's abstracted? When did that happen? Just like, it just came out of nowhere, and it sort of screwed with the narrative. It sort of messed with the continuity of the episode, and again, just my biggest grievance with the final episode. It's just that singular thing. Oh my god, there's a dragon. Is that singular thing. So again, we're currently sitting at a 9 out of 10. Yeah, 9 out of 10 for the full show. Character development, I'm giving that a 10 out of 10. The show did amazingly when it comes to character development and growth, which I certainly applaud it in its attempts to do that. It does it in such a good way. Like every single character starts off as this one character that we see in episode 1, and then they all start changing from hence there on. They start growing, start changing. For example, to go through everyone, Pomni adjusts to the circuses, starts making friends. Jax starts opening up a bit, specifically at the end of the show. He doesn't really have much character development in the early show, but I'm not gonna complain about that specifically, because he does have some like character growth, and some stuff happens to his character throughout the show. Ragatha learns to be more, to not constantly see everything situation as good. Like, she sort of gives up the idea of every situation being the best possible one, and then results that she was stuck in at the beginning of the show. Gangle starts getting more confident, happy. They start feeling better about everything that's been going on in their life. And with that, Zubul starts getting more confident in their own body and their own person. They don't feel as though they're being... They start accepting that their body and their person, which is the big thing they struggled with at the early episodes. And Kinger became sane. There's nothing else to say about Kinger. Is that he was more sane at the end of the series. He had grown mentally and become a person that the team can rely on, that the cast and crew could rely on when it came to any situation, which I find great, which I personally find very rewarding and great for his character. So again, 10 out of 10, which means we're at a... I don't actually know what number we're at with a 9. I'll add it up in a moment. And then finally, when it comes to feeling, I personally have to give this a 9, because after watching the episode, I did feel this like feeling of like it affected, it moved me in a certain way that I very much was not expecting. And only one other show I feel like has actually managed to do that. Granted, that's my personal opinion. And that was the Owl House when that finished. I did reference it in the reaction, but essentially I had the feeling like after the show ended, for the rest of the day, it just felt like something was missing. Like something was changed. Like the world had changed a good amount, and that sort of stuff. Like, and so with that, I'm gonna give him a 9 out of 10 for that. So with that, I'm gonna quickly do the math while this thing's loading. So we're currently sitting at a 9.20, I was gonna round it up to a 9.5 out of 10 when it comes to the show. I have really enjoyed the show as a whole. It has been an amazing experience watching it, reacting to it for all of you. And I'm very sad that the show is over and I'm not going to be able to watch it anymore. Okay. I'll watch it anymore. And I also know that pretty sure the creators aren't creating a season 2, so nothing left. Like, this is it. There's just this and, like, what we make. Like, we make the rest of the show. Which is, in my mind, very cool, very interesting, and, like, a great way to go about that. So, for this, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just finish this weird frog jumping puzzle real quick and just I'm gonna keep talking about stuff. And sort of just talk in general about stuff. Maybe I might just end the episode if I don't have anything to talk about. Okay, I guess I finished the puzzle. I'll take it. Okay, and since I just finished the puzzle, I hope you enjoyed this very uniquely formatted video. If you want me to do some more stuff like this in the future, for like other like big shows and series that I watch, then leave it down in the comments. I might be interested. I'll do more of these if you guys want it. But I also love some tips and tricks for doing this, because this was not again, first attempt, first try to do something like this. This is very new, and so if you have any tips and tricks for how to do this kind of stuff, that'd be great. But with that, hit the like button down below, hit the subscribe button, ring the notification bell, that way you're notified whenever the next one of these comes out. And I'll see you then. Bye.